Welcome to the Franklin County NC Podcast. I'm James Hicks, and this is a podcast about Franklin County, North Carolina. On our broadcast, we hope you'll learn a few things you didn't know about Franklin County, North Carolina, plus some helpful tips for you in your daily lives. Today, I'm joined by no stranger to the podcast, Assistant County Manager Will Doerfer, and we're going to talk about broadband, which is a hot topic in Franklin County. So, Will, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. Thank you, James. Hope you are.
Yep. So we've talked about, we had you on before, we talked about the opioid settlement funds and the National Opioid Settlement Fund. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go check that one out. And then we immediately had another episode right behind it when we had one of our astute 4-Hers who was following you around and learning about government. We had an opportunity to talk with you and him about that, and that was a very cool little episode we were able to get in there. But we wanted to get you on also to talk about broadband, because this is a big project that's going on in the county and something that you've been probably working with as soon as you hit the door. So I'll say, to learn more about Will, go back to those other. We won't get into the background and all that stuff. We've already covered that on a previous episode, so go check that out. So we'll just begin from there. So how long have you been involved with working with broadband in Franklin County?
So it was one of my first projects assigned to me when I came on board in Franklin County a little over 2 years ago. And I do want to back up 1 second, a brief update on our Mr. Lance Williams. He was a Park Scholar this year, and so he'll be enjoying a full ride to NC State University. Very proud of that young man, and super happy to provide that update. But real good kid. Gonna have to watch out for him. He's going places. So
yeah.
Real proud of that. Proud of that episode. So broadband was one of my first projects assigned. At the time that I arrived, we were working on the what we're now calling Great Grant 1, because now we have a second Great Grant Award. But the first Great Grant Award was before ARPA funding was released, and so it was a smaller county match to match state funding, and then a larger portion of private funding. So that's how the Great Grant was set up. The North Carolina legislature contributed some funding. The county was expected to contribute some funding, and the private provider was expected to provide the largest share of the funding.
Yeah, and so if for anybody out there who is not as doesn't know what this is, he's not referring to a great grant. It's just a great grant, just as it's a great thing out there. Great actually stands for something.
That's right.
Do you remember off the top of your head?
Growing rural economies through access to technology?
Pretty close. That is. Growing rural economies with access to technology is what GREAT stands for. So it's a government acronym.
That's right.
So that's what that is. And that's, you mentioned about, it was established by the North Carolina legislature. It's awarded by the Broadband Infrastructure Office, a competitive grant program. I believe they say to deploy last mile broadband infrastructure.
Correct. So if you think of broadband as a traditional utility like power, there are big lines that run crisscross the state that carry high volumes of power, and then there's a connection that goes to each residence. Broadband is similar. There's what they call the backhaul that goes to where the the internet the internet speed emanates from, and then there are direct connections to homes, and then there's middle mile, which provides the infrastructure to get to that last mile. So broadband has many components. There is fiber to the home. You can also get access to high-speed internet through line-of-sight service or cellular service, or what they call LTE.
Well, that's so the broadband. So we talk about internet and internet speeds and things like that, and people will think about the different things, different vendors, different companies will offer. For the purposes of the program and the build-out here in Franklin County, we're not really talking about old phone dial-up. We're not talking about coaxial, which is cable internet. The deployment for the broadband and the great grants is the fiber, which is
That's correct. That is the fiber to the home. So that is the what they call the gold standard in the industry. And I'm going to give a disclaimer. I know what I know through the grant process. I'm not any sort of broadband or telecommunications expert. So I know what I know through the grant programs. But industry standard high speed internet, best case scenario is fiber to the home. They can either put it underground or they can hang it from telephone poles. But getting that fiber directly to the home is the best, most reliable, and scalable way to provide high-speed internet.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about fiber as it's not like when you think of other things where it kind of has to like relay. It's fiber optics, so it goes pretty fast. And when you see those speeds, you're going to see the speeds are traditional. You're going to have a top number and a bottom number that's going to be different. Whereas typically with fiber, it's going to be the same across the board because it's that fast, really.
Well,
download upload speed stuff gets a little bit.
So there's download upload speeds. So one of the things with the second phase of the grant, when we start using ARPA funding, which is federal funding, the definition of broadband changes a little bit. So broadband, according to the federal rules, is 100 by 20. So 100 download, 20 upload. But it has to be expandable to symmetrical 100. So 100 down, 100 up. So that is a higher level of broadband than I think the first definition of broadband was 25 and 3 or 10 and 3 or something like that. And so we've moved a long way from that. We're moving closer to 100 by 100 symmetrical broadband speeds.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of progress in this because I know I've heard of people who had zero internet opportunities other than your super old school potential ways or something like satellite. And some of these programs are giving not only is it some people's first chance at internet, but it's the top of the line internet that has been created out there. How far along are we, or was it the Great Grant 1? How many, I forget how we measure that. Is it people, homes, whatever?
Right.
How many people were affected by that?
So the Brightspeed, the company that provides the service, refers to it as passings. And so that's residential, commercial structures that they pass by. They call that a passing. And so Great Grant 1 was just over 1,400 passings, mostly in the northeastern portion of the county, but also some outside of Franklinton. The Great Grant Phase 2 is actually about 1,400 locations, and it is spread pretty much throughout the county. There's some in Lewisburg, and then all along the southern part of the county, sort of between Youngsville and Franklinton and Bunn. Yeah,
and we'll go for anyone who's been watching and observing. Might be unfamiliar with Brightspeed. Brightspeed, we'll say originally with the grant was CenturyLink was the company that was awarded the first grant, and CenturyLink was became Lumen.
Right.
We'll just say became Lumen.
Yep.
And then how we got to Brightspeed is Brightspeed's a new company that bought this market from Lumen essentially. So it's when we deal with the different people who have been working on getting this broadband over the last couple of years, it's the same people. It's just some of the company names have changed, but it's all the same people that are working toward all of this.
And Brightspeed has, they've been a good partner. They have moved their headquarters to North Carolina, and they have heavily invested in North Carolina, even separate and above for the grant investments that they've made. And so they're working hard to provide good service and expand their service and expand their market in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and they have we've got a lot of projects going. We've had some great opportunities to watch and see how this continues to flourish. We have, and they also keep periodically checking in with the Board of Commissioners and giving updates on their progress, as with most of the projects here in Franklin County. So our commissioners and those that attend the meetings can stay on top of where we're at with the projects.
That's the other good thing about the GREAT program. It is a three-way partnership between the provider, which is Brightspeed in our case, the county, and the state of North Carolina. And so they're accountable to both us and the state, and we contribute, so we've got some skin in the game. So it's a real partnership, and we have been able to provide several, a few thousand passings, as they say, in the county over the last couple of years, and looking ahead, that's only going to grow. The federal government has announced the BEAD program, which I am sad to say I do not recall the exact meaning of those. I guess that acronym, but the BEAD program
is Broadband Equity Access and Deployment.
Thank you. So the BEAD program is $1 billion with a B, funding for basically internet for all. I mean, they're trying to get internet to everybody. This program is the rules are currently being developed by the state Department of Information Technology, and expect to hear how this is actually going to work later this summer. The applications will be open, and certainly Franklin County will be monitoring that closely and working closely with our state and federal partners on making sure that we get a piece of that to further expand broadband in the county. The other program is the CAB program, and that is Completing Access to Broadband. Again, this is a state program that leverages both state funding and ARPA funding. And this program does what it sounds like it does. It completes access. So those places that were just outside of the reach of the GREAT grant program will be eligible for for CAB funding. And between these next two programs, I feel very confident that we will have some really good coverage throughout the entire county.
Mm-hmm. And with some of these programs, with the BEAD is sort of a newer one, but with the CAB program, we had someone from the Broadband Infrastructure Office come and speak to the commissioners.
That's right. Mr. Hughes came and gave a nice presentation. He had a bunch of money in the trunk of his car, and one bag of money was bigger than the other, and so he explained it in a way that was everybody could understand. And they do have several programs. Some of them, I think they call it a stopgap program, is for those low density areas, again, that are just sort of outside the reach of the GREAT grant program. 1 and 2 off that have to go down a long dirt road, I guess, if you could imagine. Broadband is while it is the gold standard, that's because the cost per mile to lay broadband is pretty significant, and so as a business model, they need to recoup that investment. And so when you have just 1 or 2 passings down a mile road, that they're never going to recoup that investment, and that's sort of where the grant funding comes in. It helps to reduce that upfront capital cost for the provider, and then it provides the service to a community member that probably would not otherwise have it, and so everybody sort of wins in that situation. And then in rural North Carolina, there's a lot of entrepreneurship, and so having broadband, even in the most remote areas of the county, opens up a world of possibilities as far as entrepreneurship, medical care, education, jobs. It really opens up the world to even the most rural parts of the county.
Yeah, and I know we talked about some of those first ones in that first Great Grant program are in that northeastern section where, like the Northeast Revitalization Group.
That's right.
They're trying to do some things there, up there. So this is a program, obviously, that is going to benefit them down the line by having some of that access. I'll say one of the things that I've tried to promote is with the CAB program and some of these other programs at the state level is for them to figure out where to put their money, where he's going to bring his car full of money to do. They have to use it. They have to have data. And one of the things I know when I looked at their maps, Franklin County data was very low because it's a participant sort of. I mean, they have other access to some data, but a lot of the best data they can get is from the people that live there. And so there's a survey on the North Carolina Broadband website that you can get to at ncbroadband.gov/survey, and it basically will tell you, it'll ask you some questions about the quality of the internet or if you even have it, so that they can then kind of look, it asks several questions there, and it kind of gives them that sort of data for them to kind of know where they need to go and to help these programs out. So that's why I try to encourage everyone, ncbroadband.gov/survey, and our participation in that survey has shot up a good bit. So people are getting in there and doing that so that, because that could be the thing that helps get you the better internet.
That's right. And another thing that we are trying to promote and increase awareness of is the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP. So the ACP program is a requirement of the funding guidelines, so ARPA funding and state funding requires the grant awardees to offer the Affordable Connectivity Program. And what that program does is it subsidizes the monthly fee for broadband for income qualified folks. And so people think broadband might be out of reach, but with the ACP program, it might be within your reach. And so I would definitely encourage people to look into that if they feel like the broadband cost is outside of their budget. Yeah,
that gets you the discount of up to $30 a month, and there's a lot of direct eligibility for that program. For instance, if you received a Pell Grant, you could already be eligible. If you participate in any assistance programs like free or reduced price lunches, SNAP, Medicaid, WIC, supplemental Social Security, supplemental security income, and a few of those other programs, then it sort of automatically, if you're a participant of those programs, you'll get automatic into there. But you can go to their website to determine eligibility, fcc.gov/ACP, fcc.gov/ACP, to find out more if you qualify for that assistance. And also, in addition to that, some carriers, some internet service providers will have programs of their own that will even go even above that could make it even more affordable. So that's something to check out with the providers in your area if they have a program like that will supplement the ACP program. So what's next on the horizon for broadband? What can people be we talked about some of the programs on the horizon, but where do we go next?
So next we have recently signed the 3-party agreement. The Board of Commissioners authorized the 3-party agreement. So next steps will be implementing construction and actually installing those 1,400 passings throughout the county. Beyond that, again, keeping a close eye out on the future grant funding opportunities and the rules. And, again, James pointed out the survey. That'll be really helpful to see who is eligible for the CAB program and who's eligible for the BEAD program. And so I encourage you to fill out those surveys. Let us know where you're having issues. If you have issues with ISP, with your internet service provider, a lot of times, I'm available to help make those connections. And so that's what's next.
That's what's next. There's a lot on the horizon to look forward to as far as some of the technological advancements in Franklin County. We'll go back through that so you don't, if you didn't have a chance to write it down or remember, that's the ncbroadband.gov/survey and the fcc.gov/ACP for that Affordable Connectivity Program. And there's actually, if you get into a situation on the broadband survey that you do not have access to the internet or some other things, there's actually a few other ways that you can supply that information to it. And I was looking for it, and I can't seem to find it. But there's a phone number that you can text or call. Text, you'll get basically a survey, and if you call the phone number, you can do a voice survey if that's your capabilities. So, I used to have a little thing right there where I could go to it. But if you can go to the website, ncbroadband.gov/survey, we also have links to that on the Franklin County NC.gov website under About Us and Initiatives. You can check in on broadband. You can check in on opioid settlement. Found out a lot of information about that. Well, that's about all the time we have left for today. The Franklin County NC podcast is produced by Franklin County as a public service to better inform and provide timely and relevant information. Tune in for more informative shows about what is happening in Franklin County. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Like or rate the podcast and share it with your friends and family. To find out more about Franklin County NC, go to our website at franklincountync.gov and sign up for our email newsletter while you are over there. For all of us here in Franklin County, I'm James Hicks, and we'll talk to you soon.